My name's Paweł Lekki. I'm a producer slash designer at EXOR Studios. We are a small independent games developer founded in 2007 with our roots going back to the modding scene, back to the year 2003 when we worked on Half-Life 2 Source Engine mods. The one that we published on Steam was called Deeprip. After that game, we started to work on projects on our own engine. That was Zombie Driver, then Zombie Driver HD. After that, Exmorph Defense, and our latest game, the Riftbreaker. In this talk, I'm going to tell you about the reasons why we wanted to improve our marketing process, how we wanted to change that, and how we did that, how we structured our marketing, and the journey that we went on with the Riftbreaker. I will analyze the results that we received, and then we will be able to see if we've met our goals. Okay, so to give you a quick heads up about what the Riftbreaker is, it's an action RPG hack and slash base building hybrid where you go to an alien world to build up a base that's going to sustain a two-way portal that will allow you to go back home and for people to colonize the planet. We released this project on October 14th, 2021 on Steam, GOG, Epic Store, Windows Store, Xbox Series, and PlayStation 5. It was a day one Game Pass launch on PC and Xbox. It also had a physical console release on PlayStation 5 and Xbox, which was also a big production burden for us. And the project sold over 500,000 copies in the year that has passed since the launch. The project was developed for 3.5 years with a 14-person team. Right now we're 15 people, and it's been built using a custom in-house engine that we call the Schmetterling. And it's been the most successful EXOR Studios game by far. So how did we arrive at this point? What drove us to create the success that the Riftbreaker is for us? So we have to start at the motivation that drove us to improve our marketing process. So let's go back to our previous game, Exmorph Defense. We released it in August 2017 on PC, Xbox One, PlayStation 4. It was 5 years in development, plus then supported for a year with active development. It was the most polished EXOR Studios game with over 90% Steam positive rating. The game sold 20,000 units within the first month on Steam, and about 50,000 units within the first year across all platforms. So it did okay, but okay wasn't enough for us after 5 years of development. It was enough to keep us going. We had enough to increase our salaries, and we had a budget secured for about a year of development. About a year is not enough to finish a game. So we weren't happy with these results. They were okay, they were fine, it was a good game, but we weren't happy. So let's talk a bit more about Exmorph Defense. So the game had 8 months of marketing from announcement to launch. It had 10,500 Steam wishlists on launch. It had major marketing beats, announcement, release date, launch with press releases, trailers, etc. This standard stuff where you pitch press and they are supposed to cover you. So we did social media marketing through Facebook, Twitter, Steam, a bit of Imgur, and we did press builds, but only a few weeks before launch. and we did influencer outreach on launch. So these are the things that we thought that we were doing right. We were doing marketing. The game was promoted, and we were doing lots of stuff. That's at least what we thought we did. So since we weren't happy with these results, we started analyzing. What did we do wrong? And what do we want to do better? How do we want to improve our next project so that after investing a few years of our lives, we're going to be happy about the results? So what went right with marketing the EXOR Defense? Grassroots marketing worked well. We were able to release pieces of content talking about the game, how we developed it, about the bosses that are in the game, about the mechanics, about the technology. We did that with a regular posting schedule. We did that usually 2 times a week. We covered Screenshot Saturday, etc. We used visual GIFs presenting the game. Our tech-oriented stories resonated well on Imgur. Those usually got us a few hundred wishlists every time we posted that. And we also posted stuff on Facebook groups and Reddit. Selling moment-to-moment gameplay also worked. And in the end, we had quite good wishlist conversion comparing to industry standards. So what didn't work well? We did a number of things that worked well, but what did we do wrong? So we developed the game for 5 years, but 4 years was silent development. We were working about the game, but we weren't telling anyone about it. We focused on traditional media, and we got some coverage, but not that much. We got some coverage for the announcement, maybe one article from Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and then on launch we didn't get a lot. We were too scared to show unfinished stuff. We held back because we wanted to show the game when it's finished, when we thought it's finished, when it's great, you know, and shiny. And we kept it to ourselves for all those years. We didn't do any influencer builds because we were shy about the game. We thought that it's not ready to show. We wanted to show it when it's finished. And we also didn't do structured community building. We did some stuff with community. We posted on Steam. We posted something to Twitter. But we didn't have a concentrated community hub. When we were going to work on our next game, we didn't have a community that we could build upon. We were making games for so many years, and we didn't have a real community. So this is something that certainly was lacking there. And we didn't have a dedicated marketing budget. We've spent a lot on developing the game. 5 years of development. That's a lot of money. We spent a lot of money on making the game, and we didn't dedicate almost anything to marketing. That's a fail. And our studio wasn't recognized. We were happy, you know, working in our basement, working on our tech, working on our shiny stuff, but we weren't telling people about that. Nobody knew about us. And marketing wasn't embedded into the production process. This is another fail. So these are the points that we came up after analyzing EXOR Defense before going on to work on the Riftbreaker. So what were our key takeaways from this analysis? Focusing on just a few major marketing beats is very risky. You may get press support, you may get everyone talking about that, but you may not. This is gambling, and we don't like gambling. We don't like it at all. And structured grassroots marketing works for us because we're in control of it. We control the pace, how we release our news, how we release our materials, what we release and when we release, and no one can tell us if we can do it or not on our channels. So this is something that we can control and we can do well. We can create more marketing opportunities by extending the marketing schedule. So our grassroots marketing worked, it created results, but we didn't have enough runway to create enough buzz. We should announce the game as soon as possible. That was also one of our goals. We shouldn't keep it in the basement for so long. Approach media and influencers as early as possible. This was another one of our goals. We shouldn't keep the game hidden again and focus on creating a build that we can give to them and they can play and show it to the world. So focusing on creating a minimum viable product as soon as possible so we can show it to influencers, publishers, platform holders, everyone was one of our key goals. You have to remember that we had a budget. The game was providing us revenue. We had a runway for about a year. A year is enough to create a demo, a prototype, but we didn't know how far we can take it. A year is not enough to release a well-rounded game, at least in our opinion, and how we make games. That wasn't enough for us. So we had to plan for contingencies. We had to be ready if we would have to publish this through a publisher to get financing, or an investor, or maybe even release it through early access. So those were our exit plans in case something goes wrong. Fortunately, it didn't, but we'll get to that later. And we have to integrate marketing into design and production with dedicated resources. Marketing is as important as anything while producing a game. So the basic idea was that programmers should do marketing, designers should do marketing, graphics artists should do marketing when it's necessary, of course. And that's what we did. So from those takeaways, after brainstorming what we did wrong and what we want to improve, we went on to devising the plan for our next game. So, and the decision process for picking our next concept is actually quite important. So in our company, everyone could pitch design concepts. We dedicated time. So for example, here's a full day. Everyone can write up a concept, a short PDF. We throw that up at some folder, and then everyone can read it and vote on it. We also had, and everyone could vote on these concepts. And we had multiple voting rounds until we landed on the final decision, because the early concepts that we received weren't satisfactory enough for the entire team. We wanted the entire team to be behind this. And how was this tailored towards the marketing process? We favored scalable designs. We had to think about the time perspective, to be ready to release the game within a year, but also to be ready to expand it if necessary. And we favored genres that sold well. We voted on those, and we favored games that we could make based on our existing tech, which would make the production process faster, and we could get something playable much sooner. So those were the goals. We had more than 30 concepts on which we voted, and in the end, you probably can't see that, but there's a project called Project Pandora. It got the most votes, and this concept won. But we didn't like the name, and there was a name from a different concept called the Riftbreaker, so we took that name and attached it to the gameplay concept called Project Pandora. And having those goals, let's name them in the beginning for the Riftbreaker. So the concept goals were base building, because our previous game was a tower defense game. We had the basics for placing towers, and we had that tech ready. We wanted to do a hack and slash game because we like action. A lot of people at our studio like action, and so we had to marry strategy and action together. We wanted to do exploration, randomized dynamic gameplay. This is important for replayability and for the ability to play the game continuously on streams, for influencers, making it easy to market. It had to be quick to develop and iterate, scalable systems and content, less polish, more features, more gameplay possibilities. This was one of the most important points. in Xmorph Defense, we focused on polishing key features. Everything had to be super well finished before we could sign off on that. And we narrowed Xmorph Defense's design to be able to finish all of the features that we wanted in the best shape. In the Riftbreaker, we changed that principle. We decided that it's better to provide a wider possibility space, enable people to mod weapons, put mod into towers, place decorations. Even though some of these features were used just by a fraction of the team, we know that people like possibilities. So let's provide them to players, even though we can't necessarily flesh out everything. If it sticks, we'll invest more into that. So what were our marketing goals from the get-go? Marketing was integrated from the start. So the focus to create the first playable build, to be able to market the game and to have something showable, changed our design because we had to focus on creating something immediately visual and something that looks immediately good. And we had to create a limited set of content that could be randomized and looked good always. We wanted the game to be easy to stream. This all sums up to that. We hired a dedicated community manager who was actively supported by the development team. He's sitting over here, by the way. And his task is to write articles about how we make the game. Some are technical, some are about art, and the production team always has dedicated time to help him. So, for example, today we're writing about AI navigation. Okay, so you're the navigation programmer, sit down with Piotrek, tell him what to write. He'll do the writing, but you have to tell him what. He's not the AI programmer. The same goes for art. Art gets dedicated time. It's not like, okay, I'll try to cook up something after hours, maybe a screenshot or two, and you'll try to do something. No, a full day or a week sometimes when we're doing more heavy tech stuff. And we had development resources dedicated to creating those marketing assets. Also, creating a demo like that is a marketing asset, and the entire company was dedicated to creating that. We wanted to create marketing beats from all aspects of the development process. So we didn't want to go into that gamble that we might get coverage from press on a few beats. We wanted to take control of that. So we decided to expand our marketing timeline and create the beats when we want to create them. And we sent out things to the press, to the influencers, on our social media constantly, and not sticking just to the traditional ones. And our initial goal was to have 50,000 Steam wishlists when launching the game. So we call this process a structured approach to marketing. We treat marketing like a machine. So we have a spreadsheet with concrete actions listed with timeline and divided into specific marketing channels. And this works best when looking at it at a longer perspective, because this allows us to saturate specific channels well. You can't, for example, send out tech articles to Gamasutra every other day because they won't get featuring. You have to cool down a bit before doing ones. The same goes for Imgur and different kinds of press. You have to allow some cool down, and at the same time, you can't spit out marketing materials every other minute. So we try to, when possible, schedule out as much in advance and then structure the marketing events to fill these gaps at the appropriate moments. So this is an intertwined, intricate web of live events like PAX, GDC, E3, platform-specific events like Summer Game Fest. You have to be aware that you're planning to prepare a build for a Steam Fest a few months in advance, and this shouldn't stop you from producing marketing materials for other channels. So this is something to be aware of, and sometimes we create a number of marketing assets in advance because we know that we won't have time to support marketing through a time period, and we'll be able, thanks to that, to release them on demand as time passes. And also, one of the most important things, community building is a constant process. We created a Discord. Our Discord server is our central place for our community building. That's where all of our most hardcore users reside, and that's our army. And we try to funnel people from all of these events to Discord or to Steam. We don't try to funnel people to consoles because there's no way to track or do anything on those platforms. They are marketing dead to us with the tools that we have. So those were the principles and the goals that we wanted to achieve. So now let's take a look at how we were able to execute on those goals. So this is the game announcement and the first 2 months of marketing. We announced the Riftbreaker on March 8th, 2019. After 13 months of development, we announced the game with a CG trailer and a bunch of screenshots. We didn't have a gameplay trailer. We didn't have any gameplay movies because we had to fake a few of the screenshots. We had some of the art and we had to Photoshop, for example, you know, sword slash or machine gun particles. We didn't have that, so we created that. We were focusing on showing the game as soon as possible. So all of our, we of course sent it out to the press. All of our press contacts were handled this time by a PR company called PR Outreach, who did really good job on that, and they were also cost effective, which is very important. We were able to gather 8,000 wish lists within the first month of announcing the game, and we thought that that's a really good result. Remember, Exmorph Defense had 10.5 thousand wish lists on launch, and here in a month we almost had the same result. We were super happy. However, now looking at it, this was really not a good result. The game didn't have a hook. This was bad, because if you take a look at games that do well on Steam, they get 50,000 wishlists on announcement. They get 100,000 wishlists on announcements. Those are the games that have a strong hook. We didn't have a strong hook. I don't know what's our biggest hook. Some people tell me that it's the graphics or it's the genre combination. I don't consider those strong hooks, and they certainly didn't hook people strongly because we got a measly 1,000 wishlists on the first day. This is the result that we would have if we didn't use tricks. But fortunately, we had our older games, so we were able to do tricks on Steam. And we created a custom daily deal. I'll talk about it in a moment to promote the announcement of the game. And while we're at this graph, you can see the results of our visit at PAX East. Over here, we also visited GDC. So this is GDC, and those are Uber posts. This is how well these physical events work for direct translation to wish lists. But this isn't honest. I'll go into that a bit later. This isn't honest treatment of events. They are more valuable than that. They simply don't translate well directly to wish lists. And we also had the first playable demo at PAX East, so people could play it at PAX East. PAX East simply didn't have Steam featuring at that time. Remember, this is before the pandemic, so it was just an event. What you get is what you get. The trick that we played to promote the game, that previous Spike, that daily deal, since we had our previous games before settling on the date of the game's announcement, we set up a special kind of a daily deal with Valve on Steam. So we asked them, how about if we don't send all of the traffic from our capsule on Steam's main page to a custom Steam curator page? that we created and hid on Steam. Nobody was doing that at that time. And that list, it didn't include the prologue at that time, but I can't get that old wishlist. This is the only screenshot that I could get. So the Riftbreaker was at the top, and the games that we were actually selling, so EXOR Defense and Zombie Driver, were below that. We focused on wishlists instead of marketing. And what we also did is we added check our new game buttons into our older games, EXOR Defense and Zombie Driver HD. So we used our older games to leverage the new game and to boost our presence on Steam. So that was the announcement. And now let's look at what we were able to achieve in the first year of marketing. We were happy enough that we received a government grant for visiting trade shows. It had to be spent only on trade shows. We couldn't spend that on anything else. So we visited trade shows. We visited all of the major trade shows that there were: GDC, PAX East, E3, Gamescom, PAX West, and something else, I don't remember what. And we showcased the game at events. This had little effect on wishlists. Take a look at E3 over there. It's almost hidden. Gamescom had some effect, but this is also a trick because it had Steam featuring. This is why it had an effect on Steam wishlists. But this was also valuable for creating business contacts and influencer contacts that helped us later. Although I don't think that it was money well spent. We got that money from the government. We had to spend it like that. I wouldn't spend that money on physical events in that way another time because it simply doesn't translate well to results. So we also ran our regular social media posts at least 2 times per week on all of our channels. We started, since we started to have a playable build around PAX East time, we started to stream that build. We built interactive stream integration into the game, and our community manager was showing the game to the people. And also at that time, we started to sign up people for a closed beta. So we wanted to give something to people that they could act on, because they could wishlist the game and well, can I get something tangible? They wanted to do something. So we created a sign-up page for our closed beta when it was going to be released. We had no idea when it would be released, but people could sign up and they were happy that they did something. They waited and they asked us. They hung around our Discord. So we got them attached to us because they were waiting to get something from us. And the first influencer build was sent out on November 14th. That's the start of when we started getting wishlists. That's when the real action started. So the first influencer build got coverage from a few medium-size influencers. It didn't get coverage from the press. But as it turned out, we didn't really need them that much. And after that first year, at the end of 2019, we already had 50,000 wishlists. So our initial goal was achieved. We were happy. But we had to go on because the game certainly wasn't finished. And let's see where it gets us. So what was the influencer build? The influencer build was a small fraction of the survival mode. The survival mode was specifically designed for streaming sessions. We specifically designed the gameplay loop to last about an hour. This is the direct influence of marketing decisions on game design. And we tailored everything to match that. Creating this demo, of course, required a few months of dedicated development effort from the entire team, because when you have your waterfall chart and features that you want to do, that's necessarily the order that you would do when you want to do a demo in the middle of your production process. So we had to decrease our development efficiency to enable us to have a build that we can market early. Okay, I lost image. Hello? Yes. Okay. We got it back. This also helped us to refine the gameplay loop. Since we had a playable build, all of the team was able to play it. We were able to invite people from outside to play it. And we got a lot of feedback. We got that feedback early, and we were able to integrate that early into the production process. So going gameplay first was definitely a good decision. And we started growing our Discord, because once people saw gameplay, they really wanted to get in. They also wanted to play that. Not only the influencers, they wanted to play that. And this was driving them to wishlist the game. And we also had, going back to slides, that large Steam daily deal. This was another trick. This time it was a bit different because it was the 10th birthday of Zombie Driver. So this was a great excuse to get a daily deal on Steam. And we got the daily deal also thanks to the fact that we were able to go to PAX West, visit Valve in Seattle, and talk to them about that. And they said, okay, that's a good idea. We were able to sell them that idea thanks to the fact that we were able to meet with them face to face. We gave away more than 800,000 copies of the game. That didn't really, for free. It was free for 24 hours. We did that just to drive traffic to that page where people could wishlist the Riftbreaker. That didn't really affect Zombie Driver's revenue afterwards. We just gave away 1 million copies and the game was still selling. So that was okay. And EXOR Defense was also at 90% off during that time. And that event got us 9,500 wishlists. Revenue was secondary for us during that event in comparison to wishlists for the Riftbreaker. We were betting it all in on the Riftbreaker. We knew that we had to have a large release spike to let the game fly. So the second year of marketing, what happened after the first year, after we got those 50,000 wishlists? And before we launched the prologue, that's an important milestone. We released a gameplay trailer on March 2020. This is almost a year after we announced the game. So the first, handcrafted gameplay trailer that is still up on Steam. That's the best short trailer that we have. We created multiple trailers after that, but that trailer from 2020 is still up there. It's our most important marketing tool. So we released it as a 24-hour PC Gamer exclusive, and this is when we finally got some traditional press coverage. And you can see that Wishlist Spike over there. That's about 2,000 wishlists. Kind of cool, but our other actions worked better. So giving gameplay to people hands-on is better in our experience than focusing on even major media bits. One of the cool things to note here is that we also went to Digital Dragons during that year. That didn't give us a lot of wishlists. That's very, very small dot over there. But the journalist that was in the jury for the Digital Dragons wrote a preview of the Riftbreaker. The Riftbreaker mashes together StarCraft, They Are Billions, and Diablo. And this worked very well with Google's algorithms. It worked all over the web and got us a really huge wishlist spike. That was a great thing. But then we were approaching the Steam Summer Festival, and the day before the Steam Summer Festival, we had 95,000 wishlists accumulated. That's almost double our initial goal for the launch of the game. So this was the first edition of the Steam Summer Festival that was available for all developers to participate. This was a new thing. We didn't know if it was going to work well or not. We were actually going to give people our games to play, and it wasn't finished. It wasn't polished. It was far from the state that EXOR Defense was when we released it. So we were anxious about that. But the premise that the demo was going to be taken down after the festival was enticing, because if something went wrong, if people didn't like it, we could hide that. So that was cool. We dedicated additional 2 months of development time to create and polish a custom gameplay demo. So, and also already having an influencer build helped us a lot. The Steam Festival demo was different from the influencer build, because the influencer build assumed that influencers are people who know how to play games, and they are very well versed at it. They will be able to go around some problems. They're not going to show them to people that they can't really play games, right? So we don't have to polish everything. But when it goes out to, regular gamers, it has to be polished like a regular product. It has to be close to finished. So we focused on polishing the build a lot. We dropped all of our other tasks that we were doing. Remember the campaign for the game, other biomes, etc., etc. We were just polishing the game and focusing all on it. And that was a really good bet, because it turned out that the Riftbreaker was one of the most popular games during the festival. It gathered 42,000 wishlists during that festival, so that's also almost our full initial goal. That's that 50,000 wishlists that we dreamed of. We got that in a week. And the demo had 52,000 downloads. We noticed that people liked the demo, but it had its shortcomings. So we pulled down the demo after the festival, and we decided that we're going to release it as a polished demo, as a regular product, after, we keep working on it further. And this is quite similar to what we did with EXOR of Defense, because we tried to polish everything as much as possible. It's just that we did that iteratively and while showing it to the public. We didn't keep it hidden. We just kept on working and polishing it while showing it to the people. So creating the prologue cost us additional 6 weeks of development, focused directly on it. It had to be ready in the sense like launching a full game. So we decided to localize it into 10 languages. The Steam demo wasn't localized. We ran hardware testing, everything had to be solid. We had a configuration launcher, etc., etc. Just like launching a full game. It was different in any way. This was a regular product launch. And we also released it as a regular free product. It was not a demo tied to the game. It was a separate product on Steam. That was a bit of a trick. And again, we were able to secure a daily deal from Steam thanks to our previous games. And they knew that we are going to upsell our prologue. That was the goal of it. And this is the first time that they gave us access to the tools for creating custom events. These weren't freely available yet. So we were very fortunate to have that. And the day before launching the prologue, we had 146,000 wishlists, so that's 3 times our initial goal. And thanks to the daily deal, the section with the prologue got a lot of traffic on Steam, and thanks to the fact that it was a separate product, it immediately was boosted into the new and trending section. And
on the main product, not the prologue.
On the main product, yes.
You had any wishes with prologue?
No, it was hidden before that. We didn't really promote the prologue.
Okay, so you just launched
with the daily deal. Yeah, the daily deal was the promotion for the prologue, and this is what drove the traffic to the prologue, what boosted it, and it got us a lot of downloads. So the prologue was downloaded 180,000 times. It got a 95% overwhelmingly positive rating, and it got us 56,000 wishlists during the prologue's 14-day promotion. Revenue during this developer sale was also actually 30% higher on our older games than the previous daily deal that didn't have that custom page. So this was also nice. Remember, we were constantly driving on the revenue from our older games to finance this one. This was still driving us. And thanks to the launch of the Prologue, our baseline wishlist rate increased from about 80 a day to about 400 for a long period. After that, it settled to around 200. Excuse me. And the exposure that we got from this front page release on Steam also gathered some additional influencers, for example, Lyric, and this drove us even further. So we were snowballing after all of these actions. So there's another important mark over there. There's a Chinese influencer, Spike, over there, and let's get to that. So we were approached by a company called Surefire Games, and they are a Chinese publisher / PR agency. We decided to talk to them because we weren't happy with our wishlist rate in China. It was quite low. Our wishlist rate at that time was, I don't have the data exactly from that time, but it was around 12%, while our sales in China on our other games were around 25%. So it was 2 times lower than what we thought that we should expect. And we decided to try them out, that marketing agency. They told us that they can get some real influencers in China, and that's what they did. They were able to deliver on that promise. They got us a big wishlist spike. Those wishlists came from China, and after that we decided to hire them to cover our press beats in China. We have a large presence in China right now. I'll show you that later when we go to the sales results. So they are responsible additionally for our influencer reach in China, Chinese translations and localization testing. So our Chinese texts are checked by actual Chinese people, and we get good notes for that translation. They cover the game on Chinese social media. They do community management in China, which is separate. They have their own channels, and the language barrier is just too big for us to conquer. And they are also responsible for selling Steam keys to reseller sites in China, which generates noticeable revenue. So what came next? The year after the Prologue. So to give you some perspective, the launch of the Prologue was really huge. So anything that we could do couldn't actually dwarf that. And this is the year up to the release. That's a lot of time. And we already announced the game, showed the gameplay trailer, released a demo. Everyone could play that. And we still had a lot of development before us, a year of development. And we've used a lot of the classic marketing beats. So we were afraid that people might forget about us during that time. That was a risk that we were really afraid of. Thankfully, we kept on sending out builds to influencers, and they kept playing them. We were able to participate in the next Steam Fest. That's the last time that it was possible to participate in more than one Next Fest. So our general approach to Steam's or any platform holders' initiatives, to be exact, is that we do everything that they make available, because that usually pays off big. So one of the other things is that it was starting to get harder to focus on marketing as we were getting closer to release, because we had to finish the campaign, we had to finish the game. There was a lot of tasks, things were getting tense, and it was hard to change our priorities. So fortunately, we landed a Game Pass deal. And I'll talk about that in the next slides. So those are the doubts that we had, and a few points of note. I'll talk about these later. These are influencer builds that we sent out multiple times. They all created wishlist spikes. And that last spike is the popular upcoming visibility on Steam. So what we did in the meantime, these are just a few examples because we did a lot more of these kinds of collaborations. It's just hard to compress everything into a single presentation. We collaborated very closely with AMD on their RDNA 2 GPU launch. And it was quite important for us. They helped us to implement ray tracing. Remember, we're a tech company. We're engineers. We like working on tech. We did that with pleasure. So this was really nice. They also gave us exposure. In exchange, they posted about the game on their social media. They ran email newsletters. But those things didn't really resonate on the wishlist bar. It's hard to pinpoint any specific actions that we did with them that would be visible there. But that created a lot of company presence within the industry. We started getting contacted by publishers out of a sudden, platform holders, and we started getting more interested. And this is one of the things that we believe. We strongly believe that it helped us to launch the Game Pass deal. We have no proof. We don't know the exact decision process over there. So in the beginning, we didn't want to do consoles on day one. We wanted to focus on PC and release consoles later. That was the initial goal. And we talked with Microsoft about some opportunities, maybe some platform exclusivity, Game Pass, something they told us in 2019 that maybe they might be interesting or something, that it would be cool to talk, but nothing really happened from that. But our ray tracing implementation started to turn eyes. We know that the footage that we released that was available at the RDNA 2 launch event with Dr. Lisa Su on stage was shown to higher ups at Microsoft. We know that they start looking at the game. We were telling them that we can make it happen on Xbox. That's their next generation console. They need next generation features to showcase the console. We can do that. So they said, yeah, nice. Okay, that's fine. Let's talk about it later. And we decided to go all in. We created an Xbox Series build with ray traced shadows implemented, running at 60 FPS. We sent it to them. And after that, I got an email, okay, let's do Game Pass. And this is what convinced us to SimShip on consoles, because they said that they want a console release, and if you release on one console, you might as well launch on two. Why not? And this was very important for us, because we were still running on that revenue from our older games. It was drying up. Our reserve was no longer a year. At that point, our reserve was about 6 months. And we had to decide whether we want to ship on PC earlier, or if we do consoles and release a bit later, but with additional financing. This also helped us to bridge the gap on marketing, because that allowed us to focus on paid marketing campaigns. And we did a couple of them. We targeted medium and small influencers primarily because we saw that they get the most interest and they generate the most bang for the buck. So our typical campaign budget for build at that time was around $10,000 to $20,000, and the average wishlist cost from those campaigns ranged around $2 to $3. We also ran additional Facebook and Reddit paid ad campaigns. Those averaged wishlist cost between $2 to $6, but they were hard to scale. We weren't able to get a lot of wishlists from that, but it was still something meaningful, so we did that. So how did it look a day before launch? We had 32 months of marketing. This is the entire wishlist graph from all of the actions. The first big bar is the first Steam festival. Then there's the launch of the prologue, those big ones. And you can see that on the cumulative wishlist graph. Had we not released playable builds did nothing. We get something like that, comparing to that, with all of that marketing that we did. So even though the game didn't have a good initial hook, thanks to all of the work that we've put into the game, we were able to move to a completely different league. Yeah, so we got, in that time, 389,000 wishlists, with our initial goal of 50,000 wishlists for the game's launch. So we were happy about ourselves, although we still didn't know if this was going to convert. So, day one, the game launched on October 14th, 2021, on Thursday, the prime day for releases, because we knew that we were going to be a big release, and we could have that space. And we launched the game at 10 a.m. European time. This was our time, not the usual, 10 a.m. PST. This was our time because we know that our Chinese audience would be awake at that time and that they would support us. And we could go through our most difficult day, with full power. The game reached top 5 global top sellers within an hour from launching. It sold more than 56,000 copies on the first day, and 42,000 of those sales were coming from wishlists. So the big launch, the big sales that we got were thanks to the work that we did on marketing. However, you can, of course, ask, but maybe that was from the marketing that we did in the period just before the launch. No, we have proof for that. I will show that a bit later. So we got this is the division amongst territories. I'll maybe go through that a bit quicker because we're running out of time. And these are the sales for the first week. This is important because there's a standard industry metric for wishlist conversions that you can see running around industry articles. The industry average for wishlist conversions, for the ratio of sales to day one conversions is 0.365, while our average was 0.49, which says that our wishlists were of high quality, even though we had so many events. So the first month, during the first month, sales flatlined a bit. We weren't able to create any marketing events that would create a meaningful spike of sales because our sales volume was simply so high and we weren't able to do anything bigger than that. The game established itself at a 92% positive Steam rating. So even though we were scared about quality because we were doing so many features, people still liked the game even more than Xmorph Defense. And this graph shows us the wishlist the conversion rate of wishlists gained in each wishlist cohort. So the wishlists that we had in the month where we announced the game converted at, 17.5%, and so on. And you can see that there are dips in wishlist conversion rate. That's 2912, that's Zombie Driver's birthday. So those wishlists were of lower quality, and then we can see Steam Summerfest, and then the next Steam Festival. So even though they were of lower quality, you can see that they are still pretty good quality. We got, 50,000 wishlists during those events, and they were just a few percent lower quality. And the question, did it make sense to market the game for such a long time? Are those wishlists going to get old or stale, as some people say? Well, this data says something otherwise. It definitely made sense to market the game for a long time. So after a year, we sold more than 500,000 units. The game right now has a 91% positive rating on Steam. We had more than 15 major game updates with new content and tens of, stability fixes, etc. We had one premium DLC release after launch, new DLCs in development, and the game is still under constant development, and we're developing online multiplayer. It's a game as a service, as we call it. So long-term marketing requires dedicated marketing resources. A structured approach to marketing allowed us to maintain a constant pace of new content to show. Thanks to the fact that we had a plan, we didn't go into panic mode when we had to focus on preparing a larger build. We had a plan. We were able to stick to it. Maybe not 100%, but still we were able to. Constant community nurturing helped us make our wish list stick. There's no proof for that, but we believe that because we know that some of the people that we converted sticked with us through all of that time, and we kept feeding them with new information about the game. Only 15% of our revenue came from consoles, because there's no way to market a game like that on consoles. These platforms are almost dead to us. And this is not including Game Pass, because Game Pass changed that. That was a nice deal. And the increased marketing focus, which is usually associated with people in suits and decreasing a game's quality, making strange decisions, actually helped us to create a better game, because we focused on understanding what our players actually wanted. And thanks to that focus, we were able to deliver a game that they wanted and that was more polished. The Riftbreaker outperformed Xmorph more than 10 times within the first year. And we are very happy with these results, and I think that shows that running a good post-mortem on your project, learning on your mistakes, and focusing on that can create good results. Thank you. Yes, questions, please.
How did you make the cohort chart?
You have the data on Steam. You have to get those wishlist CSVs. When you download those CSVs in the Steam backend, you can get wishlist data from every month. You have to put that in an Excel file, and there's cohort conversion data in the Steam backend. You can, divide one by the other, and then you'll get those numbers.
Yeah, hi. What was the price of the game at the launch?
$30. Any more questions? No? Thank you.
So, one more question, if you have time. Are there any common pitfalls for preparing the Steam presence? Something? Any common pitfalls that you would think of in creating the presence on Steam? Because you said you tried everything, but is there something that you would avoid?
I would avoid not trying things. Basically tried everything. We tried everything that there was. You have to learn what works for your game. So I think that the conclusion is to analyze what works for you and trying to work on that. I don't think that there's one single answer what's the good way to create a presence on Steam or not. Just do a lot.